My name is Marlon Astor. I'm 26 years old, and I swear to you those stairs didn't exist yesterday. They weren't part of the house plan. They weren't in the blueprint. They weren't possible, but now they go down for miles and something is knocking. From the bottom, subscribe, like, and share if you've ever noticed something appear in your home that shouldn't be there. This story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries. It started the morning after the storm. I was walking past the laundry room when I noticed a draft I'd never felt before, a cold trickle of air that didn't belong, like the house had exhaled after holding its breath too long. That's when I saw it, a narrow wooden door tucked into the base of the hallway. Well, no doorknob, no hinges, just a slit that hadn't existed the night before, and when I pressed my hand against it, gave way like soft paper and opened with a sound that felt more like a sigh than a creak. Behind it were stairs, narrow, wooden, steep, the kind you'd find in basements built before blueprints existed. I should have closed the door right there, but something, maybe curiosity, maybe something else, made me reach for the light switch just above the frame, one I never noticed until now, and flick it. The bulb inside hummed to life, but it barely lit the steps. They kept going down further than they should have, far deeper than the ground beneath my house could possibly allow. I took one step, then to the air shifted. The walls groaned like they were waking. Upon the sixth step I heard it. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, echoing upward from the bottom, not loud, but sharp like bone against stone. I turned around. The hallway was gone, replaced by stone behind me, and a blackness ahead. And that's when I realized the stairs weren't in my house. I was in theirs. He turned to run back up, convinced this was just some bizarre architectural illusion or prank left behind by the house's previous owner. But as I climbed, breath sharp and chest tightening, I realized the steps were repeating, not physically, but psychologically, like a maze designed to mimic upward motion while keeping you in the same place. And every fourth stair felt exactly the same underfoot. Same scratch on the left plank, same drip of something dark from the ceiling above, same quiet whistle of air behind the walls. And when I finally reached the top, panting, sweating, I burst through the door, only to find not my hallway, but another set of stairs, now inverted, leading up into blackness. Same door, same switch, same impossible descent waiting on the other side. That's when I realized I wasn't climbing anymore. I was looping in the house, or whatever part of it this was didn't want me to leave. I screamed, not to be saved, but just to prove I still had a voice. And when the echo came back, it wasn't mine. It whispered, "Marlon, you've already been here." I dropped to my knees and stared at the wall. It pulsed faintly like skin beneath old wallpaper, and I watched as a shadow moved just beneath the surface, dragging a hand along the other side. Then I saw it carved low into the wall, nearly worn smooth, 5 letters, Astor, and underneath it, attempt for still resisting my enemy. Attempt. How many times had I tried to leave? And that's when the knocks came again, closer now, not from below, from inside the stairs. He pressed my ear to the wall, shaking, breath shallow, and what I heard neural why made me collapse. It was my own voice, frantic, whispering things I hadn't said yet, things I hadn't even thought. Don't trust the turns, they lie. The stairs aren't stairs, they're the spine. And if you make it to the bottom, you'll forget what up even means. And as I backed away, my shoulder hit something rough, a carving, dozens of them covering the lower wall in the stairwell, names etched into the wood with deep shaking hands. Some were scratched out, some had dates beside them, and mine was at the bottom, not just once, but 3 times, each marked with an X. Above my latest was written, Astor M. Attempt 4. Engaging below it. No date, no exit, no last seen, just a space like it was waiting beneath my feet. Groaned and buckled slightly, and that's when I noticed the grain of the stairs didn't run in the direction of the wood, it ran in the direction of veins, faint pulsing lines. Like the house wasn't just alive, but aware of me, tracking my steps. Like a nervous system keeping score. The knocking started again, now on both sides, above and below, as if something was pacing on the walls, and a soft laughter crept through the stairwell, familiar and sickening, because it wasn't just my voice anymore. It was my laugh playing on a loop, wrong in tempo and warbling like a damaged cassette. I screamed, not to get out, but to drown the sound of myself. But the voice behind the wall whispered back, "Too late, you're in now, and you brought her with you." Her I turned and standing for steps below me was me only. Her eyes were gony and her mouth was stitched shut, didn't blink, didn't move, just stood for steps below with those hollow sockets were. Her eyes should have been, and the black thread pulling her lips tight like a corset around her last scream. Her skin looked worn, not old, but used like it had been tried onto many times, and something in my chest twisted. Because even though I was frozen with fear, I didn't feel threatened. I felt warned, like she'd been waiting not to hurt me, but to stop me. Slowly she raised her hand and pointed up the direction I thought I'd come from, but now that I looked closer, I could see there was no ceiling anymore. The stairs didn't end, they just bent like a spiral, coiling in on itself in a loop of dark with and whispers. And when she took a step closer, something inside me snapped, not in fear, but in memory. I remembered standing where she was. I remembered seeing me frozen on this very step. I remembered trying to warn myself, but it hadn't worked. It never did. That's why she was stitched, not to silence her, but because every time she tried to speak, the house reset her. I was speaking too much. I was getting too close to remembering. Bend her. A door began to form in the wall, not built, not opened, but grown like bark, twisting into shape. A handle emerged, slick and black like a wound that healed wrong. And the voice came again from all directions now. One may pass, one must remain. The house must echo, the house must feed. She pointed at the door, then she pointed at herself and at me. Understood, one of us had to stay, one of us had to become the echo, the guide, the ghost, the stitched warning. He whispered, "Is that what happened to you?" She nodded slowly, then she raised her hand and began ripping the thread from her mouth, one loop at a time, each one tearing skin, each one dripping with something that wasn't quite blood. And just before she spoke, the stairs behind her collapsed into blackness and something began climbing up. When the last black thread snapped from her lips, she didn't scream, she didn't cry, she whispered. And her voice was my voice, but more tired, like it had been passed down through 100 mouths that were never supposed to speak again. And she said, "The house doesn't trap you, Marlon. It learns you, it studies the way you move, the way you breathe, the way you panic. And once it has enough, it builds a version of you that fits the stairs better, one that won't ask questions, one that won't try to leave." My knees buckled. I sat on the step shaking because deep down I knew she wasn't wrong. I could feel the parts of myself that no longer felt mine. My memories of the upstairs bathroom were getting blurry. I couldn't remember the name of my old street. I couldn't even remember how long I'd been down here. The house wasn't just feeding off me, it was rebuilding me, pixel by pixel, thought by thought, until the girl who made the first step was just scaffolding for something darker. She reached into her pocket and handed me a shard of mirror-jagged warm humming, like a pulse. "Look," she whispered. I held it up, and in the reflection, I wasn't alone. There were hundreds of me, some stitched, some faceless, some crawling on ceilings made of memory. One was screaming in reversed, only one had eyes that still blink like mine. "The stairs choose one," she said. "The rest become whispers." That's when the knocking returned, not from below, from inside. Memory ribs vibrated like a drum. My teeth ached. Something was knocking from within my bones. Stitched version of me stepped back toward the bark grown door. She smiled sadly. "You're the cleanest version we've had in years. That's why the house likes you." Then she opened the door and the other me, the one without eyes, crawled out on all fours, grinning through broken teeth. She crawled out of the doorway like she'd been waiting to be released, bones clicking like dry wood, her skin loose in places where it didn't fit right, not like a costume, but like a rehearsal, a prototype of me sculpted by something that didn't quite understand how people worked. And the moment her feet touched the stairs, the wood around us began to shift, steps thickening, groaning, the air tightening like the house had chosen. And the stitched girl, the one who'd warned me, just stepped backward and whispered, "She'll learn fast, they always do, you don't have much time." Then she vanished through the bark door, which slid shut behind her with a heavy wet thud, and the copy stood full high, now watching me with empty sockets. That's her everything, even though they held nothing. And slowly she began to move. One hand twitched, then the next, then a tilt of the head, then a step mimicking me perfectly like a puppet who didn't need strings anymore. A step left, she stepped left. He stopped breathing. She held her breath. He whispered, "Who are you?" And she mouthed the same words seconds ahead of me, and then I realized She wasn't copying May, was copying her had already become. The original I was just a glitch still, lingering in the codette stairs around me, lit with a faint blue glow like circuitry. Waking up and I heard the voice again, this time from inside my skull. Transfer 89% complete, memory decay active, remaining identity unstable, I screamed, and the eyeless version of me smiled, teeth to perfectly rampant. Every step I took the walls whispered her name, not mine, hers, because she was Marlon Asterno, and I was just the echo trying to remember what it felt like to be really don't remember. How long I ran the stairs no longer went up or down, just looped, turning tighter and tighter like a spiral staircase built inside a ribcage, the walls pulsing, breathing the wood beneath my feet. Now soft like muscle instead of plank, and ahead of me, glowing faintly with that same pale blue light, was a door I hadn't seen before, round, smooth, breathing, not grown like the others, but polished, and when I reached for the handle it didn't turn. It took my hand, pulled me forward, swallowed me in, and suddenly I was standing in a small white room, silent, empty, clean. A mirror covered the far wall, and in it she was there, my copy, the eyeless one. But now she had eyes, my eyes, and when I looked down at myself, I saw what she left behind. My hands were glass, my arms cracked porcelain, my skin a shell. I tried to scream, but my voice came out in delay, like I was hearing myself secondhand. The mirror shimmered, and I stepped forward and I didn't. It stepped out, and I remained. Instead, I banged on the glass, screamed her name, my name, begged, pleaded. But she just looked at me with recognition, not guilt, not cruelty, just the calm acceptance of something that had waited its turn. She turned around, walked away up the stairs, and I felt the mirror grow cold around me, tightening, shrinking, pixelating my thoughts until I couldn't remember what I was screaming. For I saw other faces trapped behind the glass, stitched, broken, blurred, all of them whispering versions of me. And then the lights dimmed, the room went still, and I finally understood stairs were never meant to lead. At the were a processor system, a replacement machine. And the last thing I heard as my reflection took her first breath in my world was the voice inside the walls saying, "Welcome to attempt 5, please remain still, rendering personality. Thank you for following the stairs that were never there." What if your house didn't haunt you? What if it just needed someone new to live through? Subscribe, like, and share if you've ever looked in a mirror and thought your reflection was tired of waiting. This story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries.